air contain how much percent of oxygen? %21 by mole, and CO2 in atmospheric air is by mole. When this air comes in alveolus, this is alveolus, and here there is liquid lining or film. This is the condition of air in atmosphere. But here alveolus contain alveolar liquid or fluid. The gas dissolves in this fluid for exchange with blood. Here the gas becomes partial pressure of oxygen. It is partial pressure of oxygen here is 104 mm of mercury, and partial pressure of CO2 is 40 mm of Hg, millimeter of mercury in barometer pressure. In the atmosphere, the pressure is very high, that is the partial pressure of oxygen PO2 is 160 mm Hg, and CO2 is 0.3 mm of Hg. In the atmosphere, partial pressure of oxygen is 160 mm of Hg. Means the total pressure in atmospheric air is 760 mm of Hg. Total pressure. Atmospheric pressure is total pressure is 760 mm Hg, and contribution of oxygen is 21%. So 21% of 760 is equal to 159 or 60. 160 mm Hg pressure in atmosphere is contributed by oxygen, that is 21% of 760 mm pressure. This is called partial pressure of oxygen. Similarly, 0.03% CO2 had its contribution in atmospheric pressure of 760 mmHg equal to 0.28 or 0.3 mmHg approximately. But the gases dissolved in liquid according to their affinity, means the proportion of gases in air will be unequal with its presence in liquid. Inside liquid, solubility of different gases are different. For example, CO2 has more in water than oxygen. So in the fluid, in the alveolus, there is rapid accumulation, dissolution of CO2 than O2. So its partial pressure of oxygen here is 104 mmHg, which was how much? 160 mmHg in air, means reduced. And the CO2 whose partial pressure was 0.3 mmHg only in atmospheric air, but in the fluid it become increased up to 40 mmHg. Means CO2 dissolution is at higher rate in this fluid than O2. Now, now the alveolus is exchanging its gases with blood in, suppose this is pulmonary capillary and blood is passing through it. It also contains O2 and CO2. But here O2 is PO2 equal to 40 ml of Hg and PCO2 is 45 mm of Hg. Means PO2 is 40 mm Hg and PCO2 is 45 in this blood. Means here is the partial pressure of oxygen only 40 and here in the fluid is 104. So where it is higher? Where is higher concentration of oxygen, partial pressure of oxygen? In the tissue fluid, sorry, alveolar fluid. That is 104 mmHg, and in the blood of the capillary, the PO2 is only 40 mmHg. So what will happen? This gas will diffuse here from its higher to lower concentration. So overall, we can see that oxygen of the alveolar fluid comes in the blood. On the other hand, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is here 45 in blood and only 40 in alveolar fluid. 45 and 40. So CO2 will move from its higher to lower concentration, means from blood to alveoli. This is called exchange of gases according to simple diffusion principle from higher to lower concentration zones. Okay. This is the composition of inhaled air. Inhaled air contains how much? CO2 0.03%. But you have seen that CO2 is increasing in alveoli for exhalation and O2 is trapped inside the blood during inhalation. So the composition of exhaled air is different from inhaled air. Means the composition of exhaled air will be changed in its concentration of O2 and CO2 because when we inhale air, most of oxygen trapped inside blood and only remaining comes as the returning blood. But the CO2 evolved produced by the tissues are released into the blood that is returning to the near the lungs. So CO2 concentration in exhaled air increases and inhaled air, it is slightly lower. Similar happens with O2. It is higher in concentration in inhaled air and lower in exhaled air. We inhale oxygen-rich gases, and most of the oxygen are trapped by blood. Only remaining some is present in exhaled air. But opposite is with the CO2, that is continuously released in our cells by cellular respiration, and these are released out in the form of returning blood from the tissues into the lungs that contain huge quantity of CO2 than inhaled air. So the composition of inhaled and exhaled air are different. Why these are different? You can answer because gaseous exchange has taken place high due to difference in their partial pressure in alveolar fluid and blood, that is pulmonary capillary. What is partial pressure? Contribution of a gas into making the total pressure there is called its partial pressure, and it is in proportion of its volume present there. Percentage of O2 in inhaled air is 21%, and exhaled air is approximately 14%. Percent of CO2 in inhaled air is, and exhaled air is 4 to 5%. So this is the difference between inhaled and exhaled air due to gaseous exchange. Now there is one demonstration of this event. You know that CO2 dissolves in fresh lime water, KOH plus CO2, and form K2CO3. The K2CO3 forms particles, and it is uniform solution, and CO2 is given. When CO2 is dissolved in KOH solution, these are the particles of K2CO3. Means it is homogeneous solution. It is transparent. When CO2 is dissolved here, then CO2 and KOH chemically combine to produce K2CO3. These are very small particles causing a scattering of light. It causes a scattering effect, and hence appears appearance due to a scattering produced by K2CO3. So, what is the test of CO2? If the air containing CO2 is dissolved in KOH solution, fresh KOH solution, what happens? The transparent liquid of KOH turns to become milky white. This is the test of presence of CO2 in gas mixed in KOH. So we are going to perform one demonstration of the difference in CO2 level in exhaled and inhaled air. Means CO2 is produced in living organism continuously, which is higher in proportion with exhaled air. Means there is difference in composition of inhaled and exhaled air. So the chemical principle is the chemical reaction. This is the method of test principle. Now the arrangement of experiment is as follows. We take two test tubes A and B. Both contain KOH solution. Both contain KOH solution. Now it is containing a tube through which air is pumped, and there is also a pipe where air through mouth pumped. Can you see the difference between these two? These two test tubes containing the same KOH transparent solution initially. Now take a pitchkari or other pump for pushing air into it. Atmospheric air comes here that contain 0.03% CO2, and there is very little negligible change due to formation of K2CO3 here, but it contains the mouth. We are blowing exhaled air that is coming from the tissues loaded with, heavily loaded with CO2 is blown inside this test tube through the tube. It contains approximately 5% of CO2 by volume, and hence the reaction is significant with the CO2 and KOH solution, and there is milky white appearance here. After reaction, what we will observe? It becomes milky white, but here no change. Means 0.03% CO2 was not brought the significant and observable changes in it. But here 5% of CO2 brought milky white appearance visible externally. So what we conclude? We can conclude that CO2 concentration is higher in exhaled air than in atmospheric air that we inhale. So indirectly, we can say that exhaled air contains higher proportion of CO2 than inhaled air or atmospheric air. This is the demonstration. Now, let us come to the other topic, that is human heart and circulatory system. Let us come to human circulatory system, where we will study the organs associated with them. Human circulatory system. You know that cells constitute tissue, tissues constitute its higher organization as organ, and organs constitute organ system, and organ systems constitute by coordination the whole organism. Now let us see the another organ system, that is circulatory system. Circulatory system has which type of role in our body? Circulation means what? It is the liquid medium carrying everything for all those components of the body which are immobile. Suppose the persons in a party cannot move its position, then there must be some extra method to reach the food, water to individuals and remove the wastages from them, because they themselves cannot move towards the source of food and water and cannot go in the excretory point for their excretion. So what one have to do? There must be a mobile medium through which all the persons are in contact, and also in the contact of reservoirs like food, water, excretory, excreta, etc. Similarly, in our body, there are different organs situated in different regions of our body. They are performing their own duties, but all of them have a common demand of energy, nutrient, removal of CO2, supply of O2, maintenance, hormone supply, temperature regulation, pH regulation. There are a lot of functions common in the entire body, and they cannot move for its function to the point of service. So what will happen? There must be one mobile medium in the whole body that can continuously supply the requirements, and that can take away the excretory materials, and continuously this circulatory system reservoir must be refreshed to supply more and more nutrients and release out excretory materials out of body. So why there is a circulatory system in our body? Because in the unicellular organism, you can remember that there is cyclosis in the protoplasm. Cyclosis means cyclic movement of protoplasmic content in the body, so that the pH, temperature, ionic concentration throughout the protoplasm may be maintained. But as the organism becomes complex and complex, what happens? There are separation of organs in body. They cannot unite at the point of excretion, at the point of nutrition. So there must be another mode of arrangement to supply the continuous needs and remove out the excretory and toxic materials there, and there must be a suitable environment around that organ for proper function. So to facilitate this type of functions, mobile medium in the body that is circulatory system. The circulatory system is organ system, so it is made up of organs, and these organs in coordination functions to carry out the role of excretory system. Why excretory system is essential? We can say because the organs in our body system, tissues in our body system are immobile. They cannot move at the point of services like the point of getting nutrition, the point to release our excretion. It has no capacity of maintaining temperature, pH, ionic concentration. So, all these capacities, all these facilities are provided by the circulatory system, which at the rapid rate flows in the body. Every minute, in within 1 minute, our blood circulates in our body every minute. So there is uniform type of system in our body despite blood produced by RBC, nutrients absorbed by intestine, but these nutrients, these oxygen are uniformly distributed in our body by the fast moving circulatory fluid, and its causing agent is pumping organ, that is our heart. Besides blood, some of the remaining portion of services are also contributed by lymphatic system. So blood vascular system and lymphatic system. There are two branches of human circulatory system. Main function is carried out by blood vascular system, but some portion of services are assisted with the lymphatic system also, that cannot be ignored because immunologically it is very important. So human circulatory system consists of blood vascular system and lymphatic system. Since our body structures cannot move from points of services, which type of point services? Where nutrition is available, where excretion facilities are available, where gaseous exchange facilities are available, and so on. There are many facilities in different portions of body localized, and tissue cannot, organ cannot move up to that service point. Then how it will be benefited? It cannot maintain its temperature, pH, ionic concentration, and so on. Means it has no capacity to maintain its environment for proper function. So these failures of the organs are solved by, facilitated by circulatory system. So why circulation is essential? You can say in these words. Now, two types of human circulatory systems are blood vascular system and lymphatic system. Blood vascular system. It is made up of heart, blood, and blood vessels. Blood vascular system made up of heart, blood, and blood vessels. Now let us see one by one the structures of blood vascular system. First is human heart. It is the simple pumping organ which sucks blood from one side and pumps blood on another side. It provides continuous motion of the blood throughout the blood vessels. From one end it pushes blood and from another end it sucks blood. So always the used blood are sucked and fresh oxygenated blood pumped out. Human heart is situated where? In the left lung. Left lung is smaller because it contains a depression, and here is the situation of human heart. It is left lung, this is diaphragm, this is cardiac, notch, depressed place, and the space between these two lungs is called mediastinum. Mediastinum. So, human heart is situated in the cardiac notch, that is a depression in the inner wall of left lung and kept over the diaphragm. Its shape is like the closed human right hand fist. Its shape is similar to this fist. It is roughly triangle, means upper part is broader and lower part is narrower. So, where human heart is situated, it is a pumping organ situated in the depression of inner wall of left lung or cardiac notch. Its base is kept over diaphragm. It is right hand fist shaped roughly triangular. Its axis is tilted towards the left side. There are walls of multiple layers there. They are called epicardium, cardiac means heart, epi means outer, epicardium, and here are parietal and inner is visceral layers of pericardium. The two layers are separated by a liquid called pericardial fluid. So, how heart is protected? Let us see. The outermost layer is epicardium and thus inner is pericardium. The epicardium is very thin layer of connective tissue. Connective tissue always form the covering of organs. So it is also covered within a connective tissue thin layer that is called epicardium. Now inside part of the heart is made up of cardiac tissue. You know that there are three types of muscular tissues in our body: a skeleton, a smooth, and cardiac muscle. And cardiac muscle is the adjective form of heart. Means these are the muscles of the heart. So pericardium is divided into two parts. Inner is visceral and outer is parietal pericardium. The two layers are separated with a fluid called pericardial fluid. Pericardial fluid means pericardial fluid prevents the friction between parietal and visceral pericardium during heartbeat. Also, there is negative pressure in the pericardium which prevents total collapse of the wall of heart. Any chamber of the heart cannot be completely evacuated by generating pressure because as is want to press the fluid inside, the negative pressure prevent it from collapsing. So some of the fluid remains in chambers of the heart due to negative pressure of pericardial fluid. This is the pericardial fluid. The main function of pericardial fluid is also to prevent the soft part inside the heart from external shocking waves, shock waves, while jumping or heavy sound. The secondary waves may cause damage to the inner soft parts of the heart, but these waves cannot pass fluid layer. So, the delicate organ like brain, a spinal cord, heart, lungs, all these are surrounded externally by a fluid layer which prevents passage of shocking waves, secondary waves, so that the inner delicate portions structures cannot be damaged by this type of waves, shocking waves. So, what are functions of pericardial fluid? It prevents the direct contact and friction between parietal and visceral pericardium. It has negative pressure, so it prevents total emptiness of the heart chambers. And the main function is it is shock proof. It is shock absorber. It prevents the passage of shocking waves that can damage the inner portion. It prevents the passage of transmission of secondary waves. So pericardial fluid is important. This is the outer wall of the heart. Outer wall of heart is made up of epicardium and all these inner are cardiac tissues. This is epicardium. pericardium, that is connective tissue wrapper cover around the heart, like all other organs. So this is the outer portion of the heart. Epicardium. Connective tissue in layer outside as packaging. What is packaged? Next, pericardium. It has outside parietal and inside visceral pericardial layers and pericardial fluid between these layers. What are functions of pericardium? Functions of pericardium. Pericardium has functions of protection and beating or expansion, relaxation. Fluid prevents shocking waves. Shocking waves. Fluid prevents shocking waves to damage the delicate portion of the heart. Negative pressure in it prevents the total emptiness of the heart chamber and reduces the friction between the of layers in wall of heart. Now inside pericardium there are tens of muscular tissue. These are muscular tissue. This is called myo means muscular cardium, and there is very thin layer inside. This is called endocardium. cardium. This is endocardium, myocardium and endocardium, the innermost. So we can say now that the wall of heart contains cardiac muscles inside the epicardium. The whole cardiac muscles in the wall of heart has three layers: pericardium, myocardium and endocardium. Pericardium is of two types, parietal and visceral, with pericardial fluid between them. Myocardium is muscular layer and endocardium is very thin layer innermost, that is lining the lumen chambers of the heart inside. So these are the structures in wall of the heart. So heart is inside hollow, its wall is made up of three layers of cardiac tissue and one connective tissue wrapper outermost. The outermost connective tissue wrapper is epicardium, and the wall of cardiac tissue is divided into three parts, that is pericardium, myocardium and endocardium. The thickest layer is myocardium. Myo means muscles. It is thick. It is not uniformly thick, you can see. During towards the lower parts, it is thicker, 3 to 4 times thicker than the upper portion. These are called ventricular area and upper are called auricular area. Means the wall of ventricle contain 3 to 4 times thicker muscular layer of myocardium than auricular areas of upper portion. So these are the composition of heart wall. Wall of heart has epicardium and pericardium myocardium and endocardium. These are the layers in the wall of heart. It is connective tissue and all these are cardiac tissues. Now we see the internal structure of the heart. Next is we will see the internal structure of the heart.